Silence hides strength. In the grand tapestry of the Milky Way, Earth was but a forgotten thread. For nearly a century, humanity had been a member of the galactic community, yet only as an afterthought, a species worthy of neither respect nor fear. The great powers that dominated interstellar politics, the Taurian Dominion, the Zenth Collective, and the Meridian Consortium, had long ago decided that humans were useful only as laborers, scientists for hire, and occasionally as soldiers in wars not their own. The Taurian Dominion, with their massive quadrupedal frames and ossified exoskeletons, had been particularly dismissive. Their empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, and they viewed Earth as nothing more than another entry in their catalog of subjugated worlds. 12 years ago, they had moved against humanity's outer colonies, claiming resource rights and strategic positions with casual brutality. The Earth Defense Fleet, outmatched and outgunned, had been shattered in a series of one-sided engagements that the Taurians referred to as police actions rather than warfare. 70 million humans had died. Earth's government had been forced to sign the Accords of Submission, restricting human military presence to the Sol system and placing crippling quotas on technological development. The Galactic Council, the supposed arbiter of interspecies justice, had watched in silence as humanity was brought to heel. And then, nothing. For 12 years, Earth had been quiet. The Taurians, and indeed most of the galaxy, assumed humanity had accepted its place. Humans continued to trade, continued to serve on alien vessels, continued to invent small conveniences that made life easier for their betters. They were, by all appearances, broken. Or so the galaxy believed. Inside Cheyenne Mountain, deep beneath the ancient rock of what had once been called Colorado, Admiral Helena Chen stared at screens that shouldn't exist. Technology that, according to the Accords, humanity had no right to develop. "Status report," she said, her voice carrying the weight of 12 years of planning. 12 years of silent rage. 12 years of preparation. Commander Yamamoto, her head of R&D, nodded. "The quantum entanglement drives are functioning at 97% efficiency across all 312 vessels. Fleet-wide neural sync combat systems are green. The phase-shifted hulls remain undetectable to standard Taurian sensors. And the weapons?" Yamamoto allowed himself a small smile. "The gravitational lance batteries exceed design specifications. In simulations, they collapse Taurian shields in under 6 seconds. The kinetic accelerators are loading the new tungsten osmium penetrators. And the Nemesis system." He paused, still uncomfortable with what they had created. "Is operational," Chen finished for him. "Good. All of it must work. We get one chance at this. The Council will declare us war criminals," Yamamoto said quietly. "The Council can go to hell," Chen replied, her tone matter-of-fact rather than angry. "They watched as the Taurians stripped our colonies, killed our people, and reduced us to servants. We petitioned them 17 times. 17 formal requests for intervention. They didn't even bother to respond to the last 5. She turned, facing the massive holographic display of the galaxy, focusing on the Taurian homeworld, Ta City, and its surrounding military installations. "Justice comes to those who deliver it themselves," she said. "The fleet is ready. Send the signal to Captain Voss. Operation Lazarus begins in 6 hours." Captain Amara Voss stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiance, the flagship of humanity's hidden fleet. For 12 years, she had trained for this moment, had lived in the underground shipyards of Mars and Europa, watching as humanity secretly transformed its technological base. The crew around her was young, too young, some might say, for war. But they were the best humanity had to offer, selected from billions, trained in simulators and hidden facilities. They believed, as she did, that humanity deserved better than servitude. That Earth had been patient long enough. "Signal from command," her communications officer reported. "Lazarus is green." Voss nodded, steeling herself. She thought briefly of her parents, killed during the fall of New Horizon Colony, of her sister who had survived but never recovered from her injuries. All hands, she said, her voice carrying to every compartment of the massive vessel, and from there, to the 311 other ships waiting in the hidden docks. This is Captain Voss. For 12 years, we have prepared for this day. For 12 years, we have hidden our strength, bided our time, and planned for justice. She paused, feeling the weight of history on her shoulders. Today, we remind the galaxy that humanity is not to be trifled with. Today, we show the Taurian Dominion the price of their arrogance. Today, we take back what is ours. Throughout the fleet, 30,000 men and women steeled themselves. Unlike the fleets of most galactic powers, Earth's new armada was lightly crewed. Automation handled many of the tasks that would require hundreds of personnel on Taurian vessels. It was a necessity born of their need for secrecy, but it had become an advantage. Smaller crews meant less life support, less space devoted to quarters, more room for weapons and engines. Quantum drives engage, her helmsman reported. Coordinates locked for Ta Station Alpha. Ta Station Alpha was the largest Taurian military installation outside their home system. Thousands of warships, tens of thousands of troops, the headquarters of the Dominion's Third Fleet. It was also, according to intelligence gathered painstakingly over a decade, currently hosting Grand Admiral Corax, the architect of the campaign that had crushed humanity's colonies. Execute, Voss ordered. Unlike conventional FTL drives that required days or weeks to transit between star systems, the quantum entanglement drive, technology the Taurians had specifically forbidden to humans, allowed for near-instantaneous travel. The Defiance and its battle group disappeared from the Sol system, the laws of physics bending around them. They reappeared in the heart of Ta Station Alpha's defense grid. All ships, weapons free, Voss ordered, her voice cold. Target military vessels only. No civilian casualties. Around her, officers carry out their tasks with precision born of endless drilling. The Defiance's gravitational lances, weapons that manipulated the fabric of space-time itself, lashed out at the nearest Taurian dreadnought. As predicted, the alien vessel's shields collapsed almost instantly, the energy binding them disrupted at a quantum level. Across the command center of Ta Station Alpha, Grand Admiral Corax stared in disbelief at sensor readings that made no sense. Human vessels, hundreds of them, had appeared without warning in the heart of his defense grid. Vessels that, according to every intelligence report and treaty obligation, should not exist. Impossible, he rumbled, his forearms manipulating control interfaces with increasing desperation. They cannot have this technology. They cannot. His words were cut short as the first gravitational lance struck his flagship. The massive vessel, 3 kilometers from stem to stern, shuddered as its molecular structure was temporarily distorted. Secondary explosions cascaded through its hull as power systems overloaded. For the first time in his long military career, Corax felt fear. All vessels, battle stations, he bellowed. Priority alert to the Dominion. Earth has violated the Accords. Earth has. The transmission cut off as a second lance strike hit the communication array. Across the station, Taurian officers scrambled to respond to an attack they had never anticipated, using protocols designed for conventional warfare. But there was nothing conventional about this assault. The human vessels moved with uncanny coordination, as if guided by a single mind rather than individual captains. Their weapons targeted critical systems with surgical precision. Weapons, engines, command centers. They avoided crew quarters, life support, and evacuation zones. It was not random destruction. It was calculated dismantlement. On the Defiance, Voss watched as the battle unfolded exactly as their simulations had predicted. The Neural Sync Combat System, another technology expressly forbidden by the Accords, allowed her tactical officers to coordinate their attacks across the entire fleet, reacting to the evolving battle at the speed of thought rather than the speed of communication. Station defenses at 43% and falling. her tactical officer reported. Enemy fleet cohesion is breaking down. They're trying to form a defensive perimeter around the Admiral's command ship. Focus fire on their flagships, Voss ordered. Disable, don't destroy unless necessary. I want prisoners. The Taurians fought back with increasing desperation. Their weapons, powerful but designed to combat known technologies, struggled to lock onto the phase-shifted hulls of the human vessels. Their tactics, evolved over centuries of warfare against conventional opponents, failed against an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. An hour into the battle, the outcome was no longer in doubt. Ta Station Alpha, pride of the Dominion's military, was effectively neutralized. Nearly 300 Taurian warships were disabled or destroyed. The station itself was intact but powerless, its weapons silenced, its communications severed. Grand Admiral Corax, his flagship crippled and drifting, stared at the human vessel that now dominated his view screen. He had expected to live his entire life without facing a serious military challenge. The Dominion had ruled for centuries, its military superiority unquestioned. The idea that humans, barely a century into interstellar travel, could deliver such a devastating defeat was incomprehensible. Yet here they were. The communication system crackled to life. A human female appeared on his screen, young by Taurian standards, but with eyes that burned with purpose. Grand Admiral Corax, Captain Voss said, her voice level. I am Captain Amara Voss of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your station is disabled. Your fleet is neutralized. You are now a prisoner of war. Corax stared at the human, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of extreme distress in his species. This is impossible, he said, mandibles clicking in agitation. You cannot have done this. The accords, Voss interrupted, were signed under duress after you slaughtered 70 million of our people. They are null and void. As we speak, similar operations are underway at 27 of your military installations. The Taurian Dominion's ability to project power is being systematically dismantled. She leaned forward slightly, her expression unchanging. You believed us broken. You believed us subdued. That was your mistake. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the real-time feeds from Ta Station Alpha with grim satisfaction. Phase 1 of Operation Lazarus had exceeded expectations. The Taurian military was reeling, caught completely unprepared for an attack of this magnitude or sophistication. Send the message to the Galactic Council, she ordered. It's time they understood that the balance of power has changed. As the quantum transmission was sent, Chen allowed herself a moment to reflect. The galaxy had dismissed humanity as a minor power, unworthy of respect or fear. That illusion had been shattered today, and nothing would ever be the same. The silence that had hidden Earth's strength was over. Now came the thunder. The galaxy trembles. News of Earth's devastating attack spread across the galaxy at the speed of quantum communications. The Taurian Dominion, for centuries an unassailable power, had been struck a blow that shook its foundations. 28 military installations neutralized in coordinated precision strikes. Over 2,000 warships disabled or destroyed. The 3rd and 5th fleets effectively removed from the galactic chessboard. And at the center of it all, humans, the species that had been dismissed, subjugated, and forgotten. On Meridia Prime, homeworld of the Meridian Consortium, the Council of Commerce convened an emergency session. The Meridians, evolved from avian ancestors with iridescent plumage and calculating minds, had long been neutral in the power struggles between the major species. They preferred profit to conquest, and they sensed opportunity in the Taurians' sudden vulnerability. The humans have changed everything, said High Merchant Telener, her crest flaring with excitement. They have technologies we believed centuries from development. Phase shifting, quantum entanglement drives, gravitational weaponry. They developed all of this in secret, under the watch of the entire galaxy. The Taurians will retaliate, warned another council member. They cannot allow such a challenge to go unanswered. Can they retaliate? Asked Telener. Their military leadership is in disarray. Grand Admiral Korax himself is a prisoner. Their most advanced fleets are neutralized, and reports suggest the humans have only revealed a fraction of their capabilities. She gestured to the holographic display showing the known galaxy, where the territories of the Taurian Dominion glowed in crimson. For the first time in living memory, the Dominion is vulnerable. The question is not whether they will retaliate, but whether they will survive long enough to do so. In the hidden chambers of the Zenth Collective, a different conversation was taking place. The Zenth, silicon-based life forms with crystalline bodies and hive-mind cognition, had been among the first species subjugated by the Taurians. For millennia, they had served as unwilling vassals, their unique abilities exploited for the Dominion's benefit. The humans offer possibility, hummed the crystal chorus, the governing body of the collective. They have struck the oppressor. They have demonstrated strength we did not foresee. They seek allies, noted a newer crystal formation. Their communications speak of justice, of liberation, of a new order based on respect rather than domination. Can we trust the words of carbon beings? Asked another. Their lives are brief, their promises shorter still. We have endured Taurian rule for eons, replied the first crystal, oldest of their kind. What the humans offer is uncertainty, yes, but also hope. I calculate an 87% probability that alliance with Earth serves our interests. The remaining 13% represents extinction, a risk, but one worth taking after so long in darkness. The decision, once made, rippled through the entire collective in seconds. The Zenth would ally with humanity against their ancient oppressors. Similar discussions were occurring throughout the galaxy as subjugated species and minor powers calculated their positions in the new reality. The humans had demonstrated not just military prowess, but strategic brilliance. They had not sought to destroy the Taurians utterly, but to disable their capacity for immediate reprisal while offering an alternative to their rule. On the Taurian homeworld, Ta Citi, Supreme Overlord Xantakir raged against the reports flooding in from across his domain. The Overlord, nearly 3 centuries old, his exoskeleton hardened with age and adorned with the marks of countless victories, had never faced a situation like this. How? He demanded of his remaining military commanders. How did they develop these technologies? How did they build a fleet of this size without detection? How did they know the locations of our most secure installations? None could provide satisfactory answers. The intelligence services had completely failed to detect humanity's secret rearmament. The military had been caught utterly unprepared. And now, the vassal species were beginning to rebel, sensing the Dominion's weakness. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session, reported his chief diplomat. The humans have submitted evidence of our actions against their colonies 12 years ago. They claim their attack was justified retaliation for war crimes. War crimes. Xantakir's mandibles clicked furiously. We were disciplining an unruly species. The Council approved our actions. The Council approved limited sanctions, the diplomat corrected carefully. Not the level of force that was actually employed. The humans have provided evidence that our military exceeded authorized parameters. They have records, testimony from Taurian officers they captured. The Council is disturbed. The Overlord paced the massive chamber, all 4 limbs trembling with rage. Assemble the home fleet, he ordered. Every vessel, every soldier. We will crush these humans and remind the galaxy why the Dominion has ruled for 1,000 years. Admiral Helena Chen stood before the Galactic Council, or rather, her holographic projection did. The council chamber on Proxima Station was neutral territory, administered by an AI overseer programmed by the progenitors, the mysterious species that had seeded the galaxy with life eons ago before disappearing. The council members, representatives of the 12 most powerful species, watched her with expressions ranging from fear to curiosity to outright hostility. Humanity stands before you not as supplicants, but as equals, Chen began. For 12 years, We endured the unjust restrictions imposed after the Taurian aggression against our colonies. For 12 years, we petitioned this council for redress. Our petitions were ignored. She gestured, and holographic evidence appeared before each council member. Recordings of the Taurian attacks on human colonies, casualty figures, testimony from survivors. The Taurian Dominion exceeded the sanctions authorized by this council. They committed war crimes against civilian populations. They imposed restrictions designed not to ensure peace, but to guarantee human servitude in perpetuity. The Taurian representative, a mid-level diplomat sent in haste after the attacks, bristled visibly. The humans violated the accords. He protested. They developed forbidden technologies. They attacked peaceful installations. Peaceful. Chen's voice remained calm, but her eyes hardened. We have provided evidence that every installation we targeted was engaged in military operations. We specifically avoided civilian targets. We minimized casualties, even among combatants. Can the Taurian Dominion claim the same restraint when they bombarded New Horizon from orbit? The chamber fell silent. The evidence was difficult to dispute. What does Earth want? Asked the representative of the Meridian Consortium, always practical. Justice, Chen replied. Recognition of our sovereignty. The right to defend ourselves and our interests. And, she paused, looking at each council member in turn, the liberation of all species currently subjugated by the Taurian Dominion. The chamber erupted in chaos. The demand was unprecedented. For a minor power to challenge not just Taurian military might, but the entire structure of their empire was beyond audacious. Yet many representatives found themselves secretly sympathetic. The Dominion's arrogance had made few friends over the centuries. The humans speak truth, came an unexpected voice. A crystalline figure had appeared in the chamber, a representative of the Zenth Collective, taking their council seat for the first time in millennia. We join their call for justice. The Dominion's time of unchallenged rule must end. One by one, other representatives of subjugated species began to appear, some in person, others as holograms. Species that had been denied council representation, forced to work through their Taurian overlords, now stood with humanity. The balance of power was shifting before their eyes. Captain Voss stared at the tactical display aboard the Defiance. The situation had evolved rapidly in the days following their initial strikes. As expected, the Taurians had rallied their home fleet, nearly 1,000 vessels, from nimble corvettes to massive dreadnoughts, gathered around their homeworld. What was unexpected was the fleet now assembled alongside the Defiance. Ships from the Zenth Collective, their crystalline hulls refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Vessels from the Verax hegemony, organic-looking craft that pulsed with internal energy. Warships from a dozen other species, all former vassals or victims of Taurian expansion, all now allied with humanity. The Taurians are transmitting, her communications officer reported. Supreme Overlord Santekir himself. The ancient Taurian's image appeared on the main screen, his exoskeleton displaying the characteristic patterns of extreme age and status. Human, he began, not bothering with formalities. You have caused sufficient disruption. Return our officers, withdraw your forces, and submit to proper discipline. And the Dominion may yet be merciful. Voss studied him for a moment, recognizing the fear beneath the bluster. Overlord Santekir, she replied, the time for Taurian dictates has passed. We have transmitted our terms to your government. The Dominion will withdraw from all occupied territories. The subjugated species will be granted independence, and your war criminals will face justice. You dare, the Overlord began, but Voss cut the transmission. They're powering weapons, her tactical officer reported. All Taurian vessels moving to attack formation. Voss nodded, unsurprised. Signal the Allied fleet. Execute Operation Thunderbolt. The battle that followed would later be known as the liberation of Ta City. The Taurian home fleet, powerful but strategically rigid, faced not just Earth's advanced vessels, but a coalition of species fighting for their freedom. The Zenth ships, crystalline structures impervious to certain energy weapons. The Verax craft, capable of regenerating damage. And dozens of other species, each bringing unique capabilities to the battlefield. At the center of it all, the Earth Defense Fleet coordinated the assault with the Neural Sync combat system, adapting tactics in real time, exploiting weaknesses, concentrating fire where needed. The Taurian vessels fought with the desperate ferocity of those defending their homeworld. They inflicted significant damage on the Allied fleet. 3 Earth vessels were destroyed. Dozens of Allied ships were disabled or heavily damaged. But the outcome was never truly in doubt. 5 hours after the battle began, the Taurian flagship, carrying Supreme Overlord Santekir himself, was surrounded, its engines disabled, its weapons silent. "Surrender your vessel and order your fleet to stand down," Voss transmitted to the Overlord. "There has been enough destruction today." There was a long pause before the reply came. The ancient Taurian appeared on screen once more, his posture now hunched, the fire gone from his 4 eyes. "For 1,000 years, the Dominion has ruled," he said, his voice subdued. "For 1,000 years, we believed our supremacy was the natural order." He looked up, meeting Voss's gaze. "We were wrong. The home fleet stands down." 3 months later, Admiral Chen stood in the Galactic Council chamber, this time physically present. The reorganization of galactic power was well underway. The Taurian Dominion, stripped of its conquered territories, had been reduced to its original home systems. The liberated species were establishing their own governments, many with human assistance. "The Treaty of Proxima is now ratified by all signatories," announced the AI overseer. "A new era of galactic cooperation begins today." Chen looked around the chamber, noting how different it appeared from her first visit. The representative seats, once arranged hierarchically with the dominant powers literally elevated above the others, had been reconfigured in a perfect circle. All species, regardless of their technological advancement or military power, would have an equal voice. It wasn't perfect. There were still tensions, still disagreements. Some of the liberated species harbored resentment toward their former oppressors. Some of the established powers were uncomfortable with the rapid changes. And humans, for their part, had to guard against the intoxication of their newfound influence. But it was a beginning. As the formal proceedings concluded, Shen found herself approached by a Zenth representative, the crystalline being glittering under the chamber's lights. "Admiral Chen." The Zenth communicated, thoughts transferring directly through subtle vibrations. "The collective wishes to express gratitude. For millennia, we calculated, waiting for opportunity. You provided what we could not create ourselves." Chen nodded, understanding the weight of the statement. Earth remembers what it means to be powerless in the face of aggression. We could not stand by while others suffered as we had. "Curious," the Zenth responded. "Most species, upon achieving power, seek to secure their own position rather than lifting others. This, compassion, is unexpected. Perhaps that's why we succeeded where others failed." Chen suggested. "We didn't fight solely for revenge or power. We fought for something larger, the belief that all sentient beings deserve freedom and dignity." The Zenth vibrated in what Chen had come to recognize as their equivalent of contemplation. "The galaxy has changed," it finally communicated. "What humans call compassion may be the most powerful force yet unleashed among the stars." As Chen left the chamber, she reflected on how far humanity had come. From a subjugated species on the edge of galactic relevance to the architect of a new order, they had achieved this not just through technological innovation or military strategy, but through a vision of a galaxy where power served justice rather than the other way around. The silence that had hidden Earth's strength was gone, replaced by a voice that spoke for all who had been silenced. And in that voice, the galaxy found not a new master, but a partner in building something better than what had come before. Across the stars, the message was clear. Humanity had arrived, not to conquer, but to liberate. Not to rule, but to collaborate. Not to dominate, but to elevate. and the galaxy would never be the same.